Good morning, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the Hockey Talk with TG podcast. I'm Ty Glenn. Hope you guys are having a great Friday. I know it's been a while since I put out an episode of the Hockey Talk TG podcast. It's because it's the off season. Not that much hockey going on. It was hard to come up with ideas to keep you guys, to give you guys some hockey content. So apologies for that, but we are actually 2 weeks away from the preseason. And before we go into the news I want to get into today, we'll have a couple announcements to say. So the first things first, I'll do a quick introduction about myself, what my podcast is about, which obviously the title speaks for itself. But to those who are new or just starting to listen to this podcast, my name is Ty Glenn. I'm the host of Hockey Talk with TG. This podcast comes out every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday from 11:30 a.m. to noon Central Time, 12:30 p.m. to 1 p.m. Eastern Time. And I didn't really start podcasting or haven't even thought about doing a podcast until my freshman year of college. I am a journalism sports media major, and when I was a freshman in college, I had my own radio show for my campus, and I had a lot of fun doing it. I still love doing it. And then that made me want to start this podcast, Hockey Talk with TG, because I love doing radio. I'm a journalist, sports media major, and I have a lot of passion for the game of hockey. And so because of my passion for hockey, because of doing a radio show in my freshman year of college, I decided to start my own podcast so I can talk hockey with you guys. And and basically how I got into hockey. I got into hockey when I was like 8-9 years old, somewhere in there. And I grew up watching the Chicago Blackhawks. You would see me talk about on this podcast, or you would hear me talk about on this podcast, of how much I'm a Blackhawks fan. I'm wearing a Blackhawks hat right now. So you would hear me mostly occasionally talk about the Chicago Blackhawks a lot on this podcast, of how much I'm a fan and stuff like that. So just to let you guys know. And yeah, that's kind of it about a discussion about me. That's kind of it for the intro about me. For what the schedule will look like for the Hockey Talk with TG podcast as we head closer and closer to the preseason, because again, we are 2 weeks away. So Friday, September 12th, which is today, will be an episode. We'll talk about the Kirill Kaprizov contract reject signing, and more hockey news for today. Monday, September 15th, we'll talk about Sidney Crosby trade rumors, and if this is his last season playing for the Penguins, will he get traded at the deadline? We'll talk about that on Monday's episode. We'll also talk about a possible Hughes reunion in New Jersey as Quinn Hughes. Some people are thinking that Quinn Hughes might go to New Jersey and play with his brothers Jack and Luke. We'll talk about that on Monday's episode and how this could affect the Canucks and Devils. Wednesday, September 17th, we'll talk about NHL season predictions. We'll give out awards of who can win this award, so-and-so. And then next Friday, we'll do an NHL preseason preview, prospects, rookies to watch, answer some of the big questions about the season, and stuff like that. So make sure that you are following this podcast. Again, this podcast comes out every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday from 11:30 a.m. to noon Central Time, 12:30 p.m. to 1 p.m. Eastern Time. So make sure to give this podcast a follow. It's out on YouTube. It's on Spotify. It's on Apple Podcasts. It's on iHeartRadio. Basically, wherever you get your local podcast streaming platforms. So, yeah. But anyway, that's it for the announcements. That's it about the intro, about what this podcast is about. And now let's go ahead and get started into the NHL news for today. So as I just mentioned, Kirill Kaprizov rejects of what would have been the biggest contract probably in NHL history for the Minnesota Wild. So according to reports that I read, the Wild reportedly offered Kirill Kaprizov an 8-year, $128 million contract extension which will work out to be like $16 million average annual value. And what this would have meant was if Kirill Kaprizov would have accepted and signed this contract, this would have made him the highest paid player in NHL history in both the total money and the AAV. And it also would have surpassed Leon Draisaitl's $112 million contract in his 8-year contract signing with the Edmonton Oilers. Kirill Kaprizov is going to be a free agent in 2026. He has 1 year remaining on his 5-year, $45 million contract deal he signed in 2021. Last season with the Wild, he had 56 points in 41 games played, 25 goals, 31 assists, 56 points, 41 games played. And that was mostly because of injury. So he's missed half of the games for the NHL season, mostly because he was out with injuries and there was also other problems that he was dealing with. And people are wondering, is he going to stay in Minnesota? Is he going to sign with another team? Like, we don't know what's going to happen with Kirill the Thrill. Maybe he just wants to be like Connor McDavid and just like no rush into this contract. Maybe he wants to take his time with it. Or maybe he wants a shorter term contract deal. We don't know what the motive is or what this is going to be next. So I think probably should ask me, because I know a lot of people have been asking me what are my thoughts about this. I was completely shocked at this. I was completely shocked that he rejected, because I thought Kirill the Thrill was going to be the franchise player for the Minnesota Wild. I thought he and Matt Boldy would have made a great tandem to watch. And the Wild, they made the playoffs last year. They got bounced by the Vegas Golden Knights in the first round of the Stanley Cup playoffs. I don't think I've seen that much from Kirill the Thrill, but the Wild are, I think fans are thinking Kirill Kaprizov is going to be the Wild's franchise player to watch. He's a great player to watch on the Wild. And just to see him reject that contract, I was totally in shock. But if he decides to go to another team, I know there was rumors back about the Blackhawks maybe having interest in Kirill Kaprizov, which as a Blackhawks fan, I would really like to see that, because of course we're a young team ourselves. We're looking to add young talent. We're looking to get back into playoff contention. And what better way to get back into playoff contention than adding Kirill the Thrill on our team? I mean, we already got Connor Bedard. We got Frank Nazar, who signed a 7-year contract deal with the Blackhawks. We got Oliver Moore, Sam Renzel. The list goes on and on. We can add another big young player in Kirill Kaprizov. So, I'm just saying, I'm thinking that he's going to want to re-sign with Minnesota, but maybe that contract is not it for him. Maybe, like I said earlier, he wants a short-term deal. He doesn't really want a long-term contract deal. But that will have to depend on him and his agent and what he does and the other stuff. But if he were to sign with another team, fingers crossed that it is the Chicago Blackhawks. But I know a lot of Minnesota Wild fans have been telling me, no, Ty, he wants to stay in Mini. He has to stay in Mini. I would want him to stay in Mini. That would be the first thing I would want for Kirill Kaprizov. I would want him to stay in Mini. I think he will be a great player. He is a great player for the Minnesota Wild. I see him as their franchise player. I see the tandem of him and Matt Boldy. I think they will make a great tandem over the few years. But if Kirill Kaprizov's he's not going to do well many, he's going to go off with another team. Fingers crossed it's the Blackhawks. Maybe the Wild, and I'm not saying this from my perspective, but maybe from his perspective, I'm thinking from his perspective, maybe he thinks the Wild aren't the best team to play with. Maybe he wants to go off to a cup contender team, or maybe help out another young team, the Blackhawks. So, yeah, but that will have to depend on him, his agent, and what happens next for the season. Because, again, he is going to be a UFA after the 2025-26 season, and we'll just have to see what will happen next for Kirill the Thrill, and whether he continues to be a Minnesota Wild, or maybe he goes to another team. We'll just have to see what happens. But anyway, moving on from that topic to the Michael Misa topic. So Michael Misa, he signs his entry-level contract deal with the San Jose Sharks. He was drafted second overall in the 2025 NHL Draft. He had 134 points in 65 games played with the Saginaw Spirit in the OHL last season. 62 goals, 72 assists for 134 points in 65 games played with the Saginaw Spirit in the OHL last season. He actually led the entire CHL in points, OHL, WHL, QMJHL, etc., etc. And he also set and tied several records in the 2024-25 OHL season. He had most points by an OHL player since John Tavares in the 2006-2007 season, and most goals by an under-18 OHL player in the season since John Tavares. He's won the Red Tilson Trophy, which goes to the OHL's most outstanding player. He's won CHL Top Scorer Award and Eddie Power Trophy Award, which is most points in the OHL. He's won the Bobby Smith Trophy Award, which goes out to the Scholastic Player of the Year in the OHL. And the E.J. Maguire Award of Excellence, which goes out to the player with the best character, competitiveness, and athleticism. And according to reports that I read, articles that I read, Michael Misa wants to get started in the NHL as soon as possible. He's ready to take that next step from the OHL, from the juniors, going to the big leagues, to the NHL. He has that winning mentality. He has the mama mentality. And the Sharks, they're willing to give him every opportunity, every chance to compete for a roster spot in training camp. I think the Prospects Weekends tournament will open up. I saw the Blackhawks roster for that, and I'm pretty sure other teams are looking forward to get their rosters together for this Prospects tournament. And I can see the Sharks as a cup contender team in the next coming years after their rebuild is said and done. They're like the Blackhawks. They're already loaded with young talent. They got Macklin, Celebrini, Will Smith, which I believe will make a great tandem over these next few years. They kind of have a buddy-buddy relationship, if you know what I mean. So yeah, they got Macklin, Celebrini, Will Smith, William Eklund, Sam Dickinson. You got Michael Misa, and goal scorer threat in the mix, and plus other prospects that the Sharks have drafted. So, as a Blackhawks fan, I'm really excited, looking forward to watch the Sharks team. Maybe Mac and Celebrini will develop a rivalry or so with Connor Bedard, even though that the Blackhawks and Sharks are not playing in the same division. They're both playing in a Western Conference, though. They're not playing in the same division because obviously the Blackhawks are the Central Division, Sharks are the Pacific Division. But maybe, just maybe, we could see a rivalry with between Mac and Celebrini and Connor Bedard. It probably won't be as good as the Sidney Crosby, Alex Ovechkin rivalry because obviously the Caps and the Pens are both in the same division. Probably won't be as good as that rivalry, but it'll be something. We'll just have to see what happens. But anyway, moving from one young player to another, we're going to be talking about the Connor Bedard contract situation. So, Connor Bedard is entering the final season of his 3-year entry-level contract deal. He will be a restricted free agent, RFA, on July 1st, 2026, when the entry-level deal expires. And according to reports and articles I read, some stuff I've seen, the Blackhawks and Connor Bedard have started getting these extension talks on the way. They're trying to come up with a contract plan for Connor Bedard. It's no rush. I don't think they're going to rush into this. They got all time to come up with a contract before July 1st, 2026 hits. So there's no rush into playing this contract deal. I think Connor Bedard wants to take his time with this. I think Kyle Davidson wants to take his time with this. There's no rush for this contract deal. So I know Blackhawks fans, including myself, are, waiting for Connor Bedard. After we seen Frank Nazar sign that 7-year contract deal, we are just eagerly waiting for Connor Bedard, our franchise player, to sign his long-term contract deal. But I think you should look at it from an NHL player's perspective and a general manager's perspective. You would want to not rush that contract. I know fans want to see it, but you got to look at it from their perspective. There's no rush into doing this. The season hasn't even started yet. Technically, we are still in the off season. Preseason is 2 weeks away. So there's no rush into getting this contract. I think they're going to take their time with this. And Connor Bedard has expressed multiple times, several times, because I know there's a lot of fans that are not Blackhawks fans saying Connor Bedard doesn't like it in Chicago. He doesn't want to be in Chicago. He should go to his hometown team, the Vancouver Canucks. Or maybe he'll be better off with this team instead of the Blackhawks. Let me tell you guys something. Connor Bedard loves it here in Chicago. He said this multiple times. There's articles about this on, I'm pretty sure, on THSN, the Chicago Tribune, Chicago Sun-Times, Ben Pope. I'm pretty sure he wrote about this. And many other articles, maybe USA Today, ESPN. He said it multiple times that he loves it here in Chicago. He's not going anywhere. He's going to stay here for the long haul. This is the team that he wants to be at. He said this multiple times. And if you don't believe us Blackhawks fans, look it up for yourselves. I'm pretty sure Pat Boyle, Charlie Moliolis did an episode on CHSN about this. So he loves it here in Chicago. He's not going anywhere. So there's going to be a contract coming for Connor Bedard. It's going to work out well. And when the time comes, when they finally get settled with this new contract deal, we'll all be excited about this. I don't know what his third NHL seasons look like. He had a great second NHL season. He had 67 points in 82 games played last season. 23 goals, 44 assists for 67 points in 82 games played last season. I hope he doesn't face a lot of criticism this season as he did last season, of course, from ESPN, particularly Mark Messier and PK Subban. Talked about Connor Bedard in a bad way. TNT talked about him in a bad way, particularly Paul Biznet, or as us hockey fans like to call him, Biz. So ESPN, TNT had talked about him in a bad way, and of course, the fans that are not Blackhawks fans talked about him in a bad way. So hopefully he doesn't have some of that criticism, or a lot of criticism in this upcoming season like he did last season. I'm pretty sure his point total is going to go up this season. Maybe get to 70, 75 points this season, because in his first NHL season, he had 61 points. He took home the Calder. Second NHL season, he got 67 points. Maybe we're hoping to see a 70, 75 point season for Connor Bedard. Maybe get up to 80 points. Who knows? But yeah, hopefully his point total goes up this season like it did last season. And can't wait to see this new contract from Connor Bedard. And because I know him and Frank Nazar, as a lot of Blackhawks fans, including myself, are saying, they're going to be the next Jonathan Tage and Patrick Kane. And that's going to do it for this episode of the Hockey Talk with TG podcast. Thank you guys for tuning in to this episode of the Hockey Talk TG podcast. I really do appreciate it. Just want to go over the schedule with you guys one more time, and what we'll do for Monday's episode. So, of course, Friday episode coming out. This episode that I just did, it will come out. We talked about the Kirill Kaprizov contract reject signing, Michael Misa signing his entry-level contract, and, of course, Bedard contract talk situation. We discussed that. For Monday, we will discuss the Sidney Crosby trade rumors, possibly Hughes brothers reunion, and more after that. These are subject to change, by the way. So if there's more big-time NHL news coming up, maybe this weekend or so, we'll talk about that for Monday's episode. So these might be subject to change. I don't know. We'll just have to see. But this is what we're sticking with as of right now. Wednesday, September 17th, we will talk about the NHL season predictions. We'll give out our awards. Who's going to win the Hart? Who's going to win the Calder? Who's going to be Team USA starter for the Olympics? Who's going to be Canada starter for the Olympics? If we don't talk about that in Wednesday's episode, we'll talk about it in Friday's episode, because Friday's episode will also talk about some of the big questions about the season. That'll be for next Friday, not this Friday. So yeah, Monday we'll talk about Sidney Crosby trade rumors, possible Hughes brothers reunion, New Jersey. Wednesday we'll talk about the season predictions and NHL awards. And then next Friday, September 19th, we'll do an NHL preseason preview, prospects and rookies to watch. We'll answer some of the big questions about this season and more after that. And then for Monday, September 22nd, we'll recap some of the preseason games that's happened on the 20th and 21st of September. We are just, we are 4 weeks, I think 3-4 weeks away from the NHL season, so can't wait for that. Hockey season is coming. I know football's going on, NFL, college football, other stuff like that. I know that's going on right now, but that just means hockey season is around the corner, and I can't wait to put out these episodes on a regular basis with you guys, talk hockey with you guys. I love doing my podcast. I love talking hockey with you guys. This is the podcast where you want to be for all the latest news, teams, players, stats, other stuff like that. You'll hear some in-depth analysis from me. You'll hear my thoughts about the topics I'm discussing and other stuff like that. So make sure that you follow this podcast if you are not already, because I really want to grow this podcast. And like I said dozens of times, I love talking hockey with you guys. Episodes come out every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday from 11:30 a.m. to noon Central Time, 12:30 p.m., 1 p.m. Eastern Time. So make sure that you give this podcast a follow. But hope you guys have a great rest of your day. Hopefully you have a great weekend. As I always say at the end of my podcast, keep God first. Nothing is possible without God. Always keep God first in whatever you do. Be blessed. I'll see you guys Monday for another episode of the Hockey Talk with TG podcast. And take care.